how do we attract more people to the school, which again comes to our really crappy marketing process.
And we also, as a group, have to believe in what we're doing.
Yeah.
How many times you've been somewhere and that person has said, well, it's not like it was 25 years ago when I was here.
Right.
And so what do these people to think? Well, we don't believe that it's worth doing ourselves.
Yeah, being jaded and talking to brand new people and not have, there's not, so here's the problem that you, like, I've come into this, you know, I talk.
It seems like even if the discussion can get contentious because we have different opinions, that's okay because we're all here and we all want to work together. I mean, it sounds like to me, and some may agree, some may not, but that the youth and the environment cross over a little bit because we can't leave it up to them, but they cross over so much because what are the kids into today, right? They're into helping save the planet. They're watching Wildcrafts, which is about the environment and learning about the animals and all that stuff and how they can do a better job. That's how we can get kids and youth more involved and they have a place.
So interesting. So there's some crossover. Could we work together on that movement?
I think it would be very practical.
Is that working with our marketing lead that popped up over here as well? Like Laura?
I don't want to take us off track here by any means.
Go for it.
But I think it does all work together. But let's say we come up with this fantastic marketing campaign. We get the youth engaged. We use the environment as bait to get the youth engaged. They're all excited, and then they walk into a dive shop, and what happens? Like,
We're back to the retailer is the weak link.
are they, like, can we fulfill that promise on the dive retailer level?
Okay, so again, none of this stuff happens in a vacuum, right?
Right.
And the retailer is only as good as the tools they have. So if we market it well and give the tools, they'll be good. They only can work with the tools they have.
So none of this stuff operates in a vacuum, period. Joanne?
I'm sorry I have to apologize, but really, because we have such a broad reach, I just wanted to say that over the years, 29 years for a national poster contest, both national and international, the message that comes across is so outstanding what the kids really do know. But inner city, in New York City, we work with the hospitals and such, and we get donations. But I have to tell you that many of the parents say, please give them a soccer ball. We don't have the money to go to the ocean. Okay, so that's something that's really serious. And in everything you do, you probably should go to community-based events, okay? Kids that don't have the opportunity to go to the ocean. And that's your best audience because they will come back to you. They're eager to learn, they're eager to do. Okay, so we're going to the parents that have money. Yes, all kids are in soccer, baseball, everything, we're following them. Okay, but you should really look at the demographics where you are and see how you can help maybe the underprivileged children, because those are the ones that rally to the sport. We have harbor school in New York City, okay? It's all multi-ethnic, okay? And you see these kids have such a drive, such a passion, okay? And we reach these children, we do, we reach this youth. So, you know, I'm saying you gotta go to school. And the curriculum is so tight. My own daughter's a teacher, and she can't get in with the curriculum and the guidelines. It's so strict. So this is what we need to be focusing on, the schools.
Just following up, that's exactly right. In terms of marketing the ocean environment to you, places like Harvard School in New York that are low-income magnet school that's teaching kids to be professional divers and restoring corals. In Richmond, California, where I live, we stopped a casino development on a headland. We brought the low-income kids from JFK High School who've never been to the waterfront. The first biology class, now they're having this year the sunset there, and we're talking with them about getting masks and snorkels going out down to Monterey. It'll be 10 years before they can afford the full scuba set. But if we do that successfully, market the ocean environment to young kids and diverse young kids of all income levels, that's the future of diving.
So we're back to
it's really those four things keep popping up, right? The marketing environment. So what is the orthodoxy that we're talking about? That we have sort of multi-pronged. We have issues of driving people into stores, and there's this orthodoxy, this deep-seated belief that once we drive them into stores, they're not necessarily going to be able to capture or realize all of the things that they want, that we would want them to have. There's also this issue of is the environment degrading to the point where people aren't really going to want to go diving anymore? Is that another issue that we need to address? And if that's not the case, or even if it is the case, what's the issue of getting the word out for being able to encourage people to be involved in that? Right? Do I have it summarized?
Yeah. I would say it's such an overarching theme. I know this puts all these together, and I think it's how to sustain diving. So how to sustain the oceans that are being beautiful and attractive for divers. How to sustain, the interest in diving. So that obviously, if youth doesn't join, there's not going to be divers in 20 years, right? So how do we keep them interested, and how do we keep the interest of divers who are divers who are ready to, help them keep doing that, what they're doing, right? So I would suggest talk about sustainability, and the DEMA sustainability initiative is really important that we'll work together. And it looks like here, everybody has own agenda. Most people are actually not here, they're on the floor at 7 o'clock.
And that is one of the problems.
Yeah. How do we sustain this? That's not even in this. How do we sustain our passion for diving?
Is that our orthodoxy that we need to address? Rephrase it.
Summarize.
Project for very low pay, and start working on that project, and then soon, then comes a commercial outfit that goes in and says, we'll take over that project, and they don't care about the environment, but they're hired by the companies to do it, and scientific divers lose their job. So there's a lot of environmental stuff out there that at the base level, we, DEMA members, need to know how we're going to grow our businesses, how we're going to do it.
Okay, so looking at this from the standpoint of, that's another orthodoxy, is the environmental issue one that is either creating and inhibiting growth, or is it actually helping us from the standpoint of promoting the sport and growing those businesses? Yes, sir.
So, what was her name?
Cheryl.
So, I think what Cheryl did is Cheryl kind of talked about the elephant in the room. This is DEMA, Dive Equipment Manufacturing Association, or something. Sorry. Anyway, embarrassment. Yeah. Well, actually, we won't do that. In psychology, it's a bias. It's a self-serving bias. We focus on if you got a hammer, you want to hit a nail. What she's talking about is the focus of the retailers is making money. The focus of the manufacturers is selling equipment. It takes the same amount of time to sell Massman's and Snorkel as it does sell a rebreather unit. The profitability on it, theoretically, it's much more, you want to focus on the rebreather. What I've seen in this show is a resurgence of free diving, and that takes a lot of the expertise out of it, because you can buy the wetsuit and the fins in other places. So you don't want to look at that, you want to avoid it. And I think this is where we have to understand the message has to tie to, we have to get out of this self-serving bias to be able to address the diving industry and attract people into it, attract the youth in it. And this also solves the problem that you talked about. It's much easier to get maybe even a disposable mask. The cheaper just to get them excited about it so that, what he said, they can come around 10 years later and buy it. We're losing them early on.
Yeah, did I hear you right? You said you should get away from free diving?
No. Free diving, certainly the free diving is easy to get in.
Yes.
And it's a way to get started.
I got you, so you should carry that.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Is this better?
It was.
At the top, to the top.
Oh,
There you go.
I don't know this woman's name, I just want to respond that I run a dive shop. So I'm like you, I'm not an environmental organization. I know our divers, we've increased participation because we've expanded, I guess, what the perception of diving is, that it is just about being fun. So for example, we developed a program with schools, and we've developed a new captive audience. In other words, we train the 9th graders in the school. They love it because we combine it with science, with the importance of the ocean, and guess what? They get to see the fish, they experience it, they enjoy it. The parents come, we organize their trips, we sell them retail, and we sell them the science, and we've expanded our customer base, not just, pardon me, but a lot of wealthy white people who have the disposable income to go on these trips. And so the orthodoxy that I heard, and I don't mean to single you out at all, I think you were the voice of something that is felt by many people. So the view that we are this one market and it's shrinking, and I think statistics show that it is shrinking. We've used youth and environment, which are very important issues, but we've used it to expand our base, and so we've incorporated science and taking care of the environment within the business, and it is helping our bottom line tremendously. In fact, we've spun off another company that's about marine science education. So we're taking, I think, the traditional view of the industry and saying, okay, let's tap into some new markets. And so, right now I'm bridging between solution and problem, but I don't think they're necessarily mutually exclusive. I think the environment can increase your bottom line and get new customers in the door.
That's a great segue. What are we looking at here? We're looking at, there's a few extreme views on either side. Everybody's got their own opinion about things. So what do we do to solve this problem? The issue that was raised, the market's not necessarily shrinking, by the way. At least not in the U.S. In some places it is true. And that's an orthodoxy. And many people hold that belief. Is there a focal point here? What can DEMA do to help to bridge these little extreme points of view? What's DEMA's role in all of this? Where do we take the association to solve Nick's problem, to solve Cheryl's problem, to solve yours? What has to happen? What has to happen?
Collaboration.
That's an interesting word. Yeah. There we go. What did you guys just do up there? How many diverse opinions are at this table or this?
Feasible for anybody else to do that. Building the railroad is what paved the way for everything else. So DEMA is probably being torn between serve my needs today versus serve my needs in the future. And DEMA as the organization should be focused more on serving the needs of the future, which is pick and attack, kind of what this is, pick and attack, and spending money where it doesn't generate today's dollars. It generates tomorrow's dollars. So that's one of the things.
Okay. It's an interesting concept as well.
It's a very good point.
It's a very good one. Others? Other opinions?
I have a question.
What's that?
So, how do the committees work at DEMA? Because I've heard about that. You have a board, you have a committee. Is there a way that we could understand how the committee could work and then create some collaborative opportunities within that framework to then start working together with some particular goals that result in youth marketing and the environment? So we're working together within the DEMA framework.
I've got some board members here. William, I'm going to put you on the spot and have you come over here and address that issue.
What was the question? Committees. Oh. What was the question again?
Okay. The question is, how do the committees work? And is there a way to incorporate the youth marketing and the environment within the formal DEMA committee so we can work collaboratively within the DEMA structure to move this conversation forward?
Absolutely, yes. In fact, the great thing about the committees is it extends the size of the DEMA board, is really the kind of concept behind it. The 10 people that sit in that room and go through the first day of our board meeting are just doing functionary stuff of running the organization. All of the work gets done in the committees. And the committees are designed so that anybody can be on the committees. In fact, we have finance, nominations, show committees, legislation, which is being renamed legislation/environmental committee. We have strategic planning, which is the committee that put that whole thing together that we did back in May that generated those infographics you see down at the DEMA board, which was to look at the industry, look inside and see if we wanted to grow. There's a manufacturers committee that deals with manufacturer-specific issues in the industry, and there's a research committee, and there's 2 extra blanks on here because we'll probably find other committees that need to be created. And they're all consistent of anywhere from 2 to 6 people, with only usually 1 board member or maybe 2 on those committees. And I know that the research committee I chair, we have Mark Young involved, and we've got Ronnie from the Canary Islands, and we've had a huge diverse group. I've asked Ray to join us. I mean, anybody that has an interest in whatever that you feel that you could contribute, that's the beauty of the committee. So you take the 10 people from the board, and you just expand it to about 30 or 40 in the industry. And the committees are it's really where, as Tommy says this all the time, it's where all the work really gets done in the organization. And it's not just, I hate the word committee. I mean, personally, in business, it's an absolute waste of time. But in this case, because we all have a common goal in that committee, everybody's volunteering their time. Nobody's making any money. It's just to do that one pure vision. So, I'll do a commercial and say, yeah, the committees are fantastic and it's great to be, and your voice is heard. Is that the answer to the question? I'm trying to pay more attention.
Ask her, I know. Yes, ma'am.
I'm confused. I'm sorry, so I need to take her question and go just a step further. So and I think this is maybe where she's been going. So you have all these committees and you have all these chairs. So is the next step in the process where the committees the appropriate ones come together to basically say, our collaborative committee, I'm making up, environmental committee and what you get is going to work with a community outreach committee to identify something that goes, and then work with marketing that's going to identify a plan to work and go out and see the youth and the environment and see what's in it for me and so forth. Is that step in there a part of the process?
Typically, the committees operate based on the goals of the association. Okay. So one of our goals, of course, is to produce a trade show that generates revenue for the association so that we can actually do other things. And so we have a show committee that helps us to do those things. And we get input from the diving community as part of that. All of the people that are on the committee are members, and they have a vested interest because they're part of the association. They want to be part of that. So the goals are set typically through the board, and so there's a trickle-down effect, if you will, for the committees to be established as a result of trying to accomplish something. They can be a long-term standing committee, like the show committee, because that's an ongoing project, or they can be a short-term committee, like a committee on some specific, like an ad hoc type committee that's specific to a particular project.
Just to clarify, I'll give you an example of the legislation committee, which I'm not on, and Jeff Nadler is, I believe, and several other members.
He came back to the room, so you can put him on the spot.
Yeah, he's the other one. But, I could give him the mic and let him be very specific, but I mean, they get out and they go to different places and they meet with different congressmen and meet with attorneys and deal with state. I mean, I'm going to let you talk for a minute, like how.
I mean, the part that I'm hearing from the group of people in here, that a step is that those different committees that may have those goals, at some point to make it more effective, need to come together and talk to each other. So that's why I'm asking about the process. Okay, and they did.
Well,
That's what I was trying to get to.
Because the committee, someone from the board is within the committee. So the committee works together, say, on the show. And where are we going to have it? What other convention centers are out there that might fit DEMA? Look at the options.
I do have 2 hours during the show that I can come and hopefully shape that future.
Anybody else? Want to tell us why you came today?
So, I'm running for the board of directors for NOWI. And I've been an instructor since 1980, and I teach part-time. My primary job, we do organizational business development. I did a couple of seminars here. Talk about an organization now that needs a lot of change. And one of the things I heard is we've been separate from DEMA, and it's not doing anybody any good. And it needs to change. And I'm impressed by what I see here, just as a discussion going forward. And I came to this session because I thought, this is fantastic, just as a discussion point.
What did you expect to see change in the industry as a result of coming here today? Maybe that's more of a question.
Nothing.
Change
I'm like,
today? Today? Walking out with change?
Tell you what, we actually saw some change that took place out of a session that we did back in April. And you've probably seen some of that information already, but Stephen Ashmore, board president, is here. I think he would tell you that we're hoping to hear from you what we think we need to be able to do to make those changes that are appropriate. So yeah. Joanne?
I'm here because I like to see energy, and it's important to have energy and band together. And what you say about the committees is important because each of us has a different reach, and we're able to bring knowledge to this board. And on that note, we, as Pat will attest, we had a show producers meeting because all of us have a broad reach throughout the country, and we want to be able to contribute back what we learned. And the fact is, we talked to people, and it was very important that someone said to me, they work through social media in Asia and all over. They put everything on Facebook. They say every seminar should be on Facebook. Everything you do should be on Facebook, and you attract that youth. And they went to the point of even saying they have diva clubs for young girls, just to bring them in. So we have to look at today and now and see how we can have a return on objective. Not immediacy with money and funding, but a return on objective. It took us 29 years with you to get that return on objective. We're first seeing it now.
What orthodoxy that we've discussed today would help us to make that change, or what, I'm going to go back to what DEMA can do to help. And I'm going to sort of interject my own opinion into this right now. I think the only one of the very clear roles for the association is what you raised, the word that came to mind, and that's collaboration. So I think we have an opportunity here with folks such as yourselves to really bring forth a method for talking to each other, for trying to reach all of those audiences that you're trying to get. We're trying to focus it in a way that makes sense for the resources and the very limited resources that we all have available to be able to do that. So given the fact that we've all discussed the environment, we've discussed the business aspect of this, we've discussed the youth aspect and the marketing part of this, is there a message that you can give to the board, to members of the board while we're here, that would be helpful to them in order for helping us as an association to move in the right direction?
I mean, the way I see it going and how I see DEMA being useful to all of us is sitting down and taking those main topics, right, that, those four that are on that piece of paper, and developing projects that the dive shops themselves and people can get involved with, that help people get out there and be involved in the environment. Develop projects that help dive shops improve their marketing. Develop a project that gets the youth excited about diving. Because you put it perfectly, we have as dive shops limited resources.
Yep.
But as a community, as a group, that would provide value to me to becoming a DEMA member. Is if there was something that I could see, I was like, okay, you know what, I don't have the money or finances to get this, but this program that DEMA put together that would help me improve my environmental reach to my clientele, my marketing reach to my clientele, that has value. That is something that's worth money to me and would help each of those dive shops extend their reach all of these key objectives that we've all talked about that seem to be important to us, and I think would help at least progress the industry.
Okay.
Thank you. We've been working with a collaborative process over the last year, doing a project called Blue the Dive, working with dive shops, with manufacturers, and we had a meeting yesterday with about 110 people who participated, and the themes really were, how do we blue the dive industry? How do we bring collaborators in? How do we do lots of small projects that we were talking about? How can we collaborate and put this high up on the agenda? And we had a tremendous amount of support saying, we love this, we want to continue with this, we want to be engaged. So maybe embracing the collaborative initiative that was started and continuing supporting that and using that maybe as an example of how you can bring all different sectors.
I've heard that from you, and tell me if you disagree, that one of the places where we can do this, one of the ways that we can solve the problems, the polarization, the different points of view, is coming back into at least some organization that will allow us to collaborate and get those points of view across, but work with them so that we actually promote to the youth, that we do a good job of marketing, that the environment is part of that concern, and that we are answering the question, why die? Is that a reasonable outcome for this type of effort that we made today? Yes. Okay, so that's good. Again, I want to say to you that this is an example of the type of collaboration that can take place. And I would hope that you would carry with you, when you leave this room today, the knowledge that the folks that are in this room, we've got 3 board members that are back over here, probably we lost Jenny or something. She just left. But we've had the opportunity for many of the board members to at least have some idea that you are willing to do that kind of collaboration, and that that's a point of view that works for you, for this organization. To me, I don't necessarily view that as a major change, because I think that we've seen that for the last, we've seen that for years, actually, since I've been associated with the organization. But I think it has to be there have to be actionable steps that come off of this, so that we can actually take what you've told us today and do something to flip those orthodoxies, some of which you've selected here, and do something with them that makes sense. So I invite you to continue to collaborate with each other. I invite you to collaborate with us as best you can, and we will do everything that we can within all of our limited resources, because we do have those, and do the best that we can to move forward and try to promote the industry. I would also ask that you work with us by first looking at some of the things that DEMA's been doing recently that are exactly along the same lines that you described to us today. I think a lot of people are not really all that familiar with it, and with some of the things that we've been doing. A lot of it's posted on our website, so you can take a look at that, but we're more than happy to answer the questions that you have.
I want to mention the forum.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. One of the comments that came out of the discussions earlier this year is the idea, the concept that we really want to hear from you. We want to hear these same types of discussions taking place, and we can't do it all face-to-face all the time. One of the ways that we can do that, of course, is an online forum. So DEMA does, in fact, have an online forum that's available. It's right on the DEMA website. You're welcome to ask questions, point things at us, and we will try to help answer that. And if we can't necessarily answer that, maybe you can. So it's open to everybody. So please go there and help us out in trying to get the information across in the manner that's best for you, and we'll try to answer whatever you post. Thank you for being here today. Yeah, Jeff.
Just before we break up, can I get the orthodoxies you pulled off the wall for your table?
Yes,
so
can we have those
capture
back so that we can, we're going to keep track of those.